welcome to the inaugural edition of the CKF, Cromartie's Kids Fun Fantasy Football Podcast preseason episode. I'm your host, the T-Man, and today we've got a lot of juicy topics to discuss on the show. We'll give you a 2014 season preview, speculate over who gets selected by which teams in the draft, and we'll take a look back on what was surely a memorable 2013 Cromartie's Kids Fun Fantasy Football season. First off, let me just say that after a one-year absence, it's great to be back with the CKF program. This league just keeps making the necessary improvements year after year, and the league has nowhere to go but up. So I'm happy to be back, and I welcome you all to the first edition of the show. Let's take a look at some of the new rules and adjustments made for the upcoming season. Now, I think the most obvious one, and the one with the greatest impact on some of these franchises, is going to be the new free agent acquisition budget. Okay, waiver wire is now gone. No more worrying about your waiver number and if someone with a higher priority is going to snag the free agent you want. The way I see it, the fascinating part about this free agent acquisition budget system is that it's a multi-tiered system as opposed to the old waiver wire process where normally you would just decide what player you want and that's that. Okay, now you have to place an arbitrary value on the free agent that you can differ from one manager to the next. If you take a look at some of the big free agent signings mid-season, Keenan Allen, names like Riley Cooper, Zach Stacy, Rashad Jennings, Nick Foles, even players like Josh McCown. Who would have thought Josh McCown would have made an impact in the 2013 season? Nobody did. You got people like Harry Douglas when Julio Jones went out, stepping up big for anyone who was lacking wide receivers or just needed to add wide receiver depth. Defenses that made a surprise, like the Chiefs defense. You know, how about that Carolina Panthers defense coming out of nowhere to really make an impact? You know, it could really be hard to tell who's going to break out and who's going to bust. Darius Hayward-Bay when Reggie Wayne went out with a torn ACL. How about when Marvin Jones of the Cincinnati Bengals went for that 4-touchdown game back in week 7, 8, or whatever it was? I'm sure if you picked him up and you banked on him to do similar production, you were probably left very disappointed. Or maybe it was that Tampa Bay running back Mike James that you selected when Doug Martin was left out for the year. Or it could have been that tight end from New England, that impact guy, Zach Sudfield. Yeah, I don't think he went anywhere either. So surely, this new free agent acquisition budget system could really make or break teams. You know, how soon is it too soon to unload half of that budget on some newly anointed running back? Will any of our managers overreact and spend on someone's week 1 breakout? Or will we just strategize and, you know, when it gets to the end of the year, we'll end up blocking teams from acquiring those key players during the playoffs? Next new aspect of the 2014 CKF season will be these Yahoo-approved trades. Now, trades in past seasons have always stirred up tremendous controversy. It seems like no matter how we decide trading rules, whether they all go through untouched or if we have a league-wide vote, managers have always displayed frustration towards the system, believing that someone is either getting covered while the other is getting away with highway robbery. One of the trades that was speculated last year that went with a lot of criticism was that infamous T.Y. Hilton for Deshaun Jackson trade. Now, I see where Paul was going with this, and I see where T.Y. Hilton could have made an instant impact with Reggie Wayne being torn down with his ACL injury. It didn't matter because he won the championship anyway, but they left a lot of people up in arms after that trade was passed through. So now we have these Yahoo-approved trades. I don't know if any of us really know how it's going to work. We're going to have some third-party mediator decide whether the trade is going to go through or not, whether the trade is fair. Who is this third-party mediator that we are all relying on? Is it an actual person that takes a look at our league and decides what is fair and what is unfair? Is it an automated computer that comes up with some sort of algorithms for these projection points? I don't know. The whole thing just kind of seems scary to me. I completely understand where the commissioner's coming from, and I completely understand the commissioner's reasoning behind trying out the new system. But there are just so many unknowns to this that I can see wreaking havoc on the league. What I want to know is who or what is evaluating the trade. Our league rules differ from a traditional fantasy football league. Now, we have point distribution that varies a lot differently. We are a PPR league, for one, And then we also have a lot of different bonuses. Now, are they going to take these bonuses into account when they evaluate the trade? Are they going to take into account the rosters and how thin or how thick one is within a position? I'm trading a running back for a wide receiver, and I'm thin at the wide receiver position, and maybe the person getting the running back, might be a little more stacked. We're not really discussing what team needs and team wants are. So how does this trade impact the role of these specific players? Here's my solution. And unfortunately, from what I'm told, the real problem is that according to the Yahoo Commissioner settings, this solution really can't be done. But here's what I would do if we were to come up with a solution. We would institute the trade veto, but we would make the number of teams who have to veto the trade a higher number than what it is set at now. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that the number is set at 3 to 4 teams. I would raise this number to 6 to 7 teams, so you have a 60 to 70% of the teams vetoing, since you know that the other two making the trade aren't going to veto it, and that would solve a lot of the problems. So from what I'm told, though, there's no way to change this number, and thus, unfortunately, I think we just have to go back and accept the fact that all these trades should just go through, regardless if one team appears to be getting the better end of the trade. What we would do is raise the number from the 3 or 4 teams that already go in and try to veto the trade. They might fear that, one team is getting more powerful and that could impact them into getting into the playoffs. I understand that. Is it fair? Not necessarily. If we had much more of a say, I think that, some of these problems at least could be alleviated and we could fix this. But, I hope I'm wrong. I really hope that I'm wrong. I hope that this new Yahoo approved trades, does work. Last major change for the upcoming season, and I find this one pretty interesting. Okay? Dynasty players. Keeper leagues. I really enjoy wrapping my head around the possibilities with this one, as a lot of those late round fantasy stashes will finally have much larger relevance than in years past. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the rules here are that every team gets to keep one player they drafted onto next year's squad, as long as that player fulfills 2 obligations. First, he must be drafted from the 6th round on. And second, he must stay on your roster for the entirety of the season. So the strategy here will be interesting. Do you keep said stashed running back who becomes a full-time starter next year? Or do you keep the breakout wide receiver or tight end that came on late in the year? Okay. Or, maybe you just have a glorified stud that fell to you in the 6th round, and you feel he's worth stashing for next year because he's a critical player at a thinning position. Okay. Let's take a look at last year's draft and see who could have been stashed for this year. First team I want to take a look at here is disabled list. So if we use those rules from the 6th round on, and that the person stayed on their team for the entirety of the season, it goes as follows. Jason Witten, round 6, draft choice 3. RG3, round 6, choice 11. Mendenhall, round 7, choice 7. And New England defense, round 11, choice 2. Now, you could take a chance with RG3 here in hopes that he has a comeback year. Now, keep in mind, he was coming off a major injury in 2013. And he showed a lot of promise in 2012 season. So, out of those 4, I think you would probably have to keep RG3. Basically go all in on him and say that he's going to have a comeback year for this year. Doesn't really help for Mendenhall since he's officially retired now. If you didn't want to go in with RG3, you could take a chance on an improved New England defense now has Darrelle Revis. So those would be the choices for disabled list. Looking at Revis and Butthead. Now, Revis and Butthead has a bevy of choices to choose from here. I like a lot of his choices. He has Monty Ball, round 7, choice 10. Not even looking at the rest of these choices, I would almost say that I have to go with Monty Ball. He's being looked at as a first-round draft pick this year. Definitely in an offense that is high-octane, as described in Denver. Some of his other choices are also very good as well. He has Ben Tate, round 8, choice 12. Okay. Josh Gordon, I would say, would be the gimme here if he didn't get suspended. He might be out for the rest of the year. We'll have to monitor his progress and see what becomes of it. But he chose Josh Gordon, right, which is a steal at round 9, choice 1. He also had some really great choices here in St. Louis defense, round 12, choice 12. Andy Dalton, round 11, choice 8. He also had Martellus Bennett, round 12, choice 12, and Jacoby Jones at round 15, choice 7. Revis has got it made if this was going to be instituted for this year. Next team we're looking at is In With Flynn, who has 3 choices. He would have had Antonio Gates at round 11, choice 7, the Baltimore defense at round 12, choice 6, and Joe Flacco at round 15, choice 4. Not the sexiest picks, but you could go with Gates or the Baltimore D. Flacco just kind of had a miserable year last year. I'm not even sure In With Flynn chose Flacco. I'm pretty sure he had Aaron Rodgers last year, so I don't even know if he would qualify. But out of these choices, I would assume to choose the Baltimore D or Antonio Gates. Moving on with Blub. Blub had Russell Wilson, round 7, choice 4. Seattle defense at round 9, choice 5. And now Russell Wilson is still in a run-first offense. Keep in mind that you will have Percy Harvin for this year. Hopefully he stays healthy for the whole year. You can go 50-50 here. Do you choose Russell Wilson as your franchise quarterback, or do you stick with the safe choice and stick with the Seattle D, who came up big in the Super Bowl of last year? Thank You Come Again has Colin Kaepernick, round 6, choice 2. Shane Vereen at round 7, choice 2. Jordan Cameron at round 8, choice 2. Now that Josh Gordon is gone for the year, I think that Cameron would be a great pick at round 8, choice 2. He also had Danny Woodhead, round 9, choice 2. Michael Floyd at round 9, choice 11. And Pierre Thomas at 14, 8. Okay, Pierre Thomas, that's a really sneaky pick. Mark Ingram has never stepped up to the plate, and now Darren Sproles is gone, so that would be a pretty interesting pick between Vereen, Cameron, and Pierre Thomas. Who would you guys pick? Taking a look now at Heisenberg. Heisenberg had Greg Olsen at round 8, choice 5. He had Le'Veon Bell at round 9, choice 8. Cincinnati defense at round 10, choice 5. And Joique Bell at round 13, choice 8. I would choose probably Le'Veon Bell here. Moving on to the third place. Fuck the Broncos. He only has one selection here. Unfortunately for him, it is not a good selection, but you wouldn't know it based on last year's performance by Noshawn Moreno. Picked at round 15, choice 6. Now that's a value pick if I've ever heard of one. The bad thing for him is, so far in the preseason, I'm hearing nothing but negative criticism against him. It would appear that he's actually behind Lamar Miller in the depth chart. You never know. Maybe Lamar Miller goes down with an injury. He's never exactly stepped up to the plate himself. And maybe Noshawn finds himself right back in the mix with an injury or a bad preseason performance by Lamar Miller. Make It Dwayne Andes Bose has some pretty good selections from what I can tell here. He has Stafford, a round 6, choice 4. Some other good choices would be Greg Jennings, round 8, choice 6. We have Michael Crabtree, if he could stay healthy. And maybe Colin Kaepernick has a rebound year. That could be also a great dynasty pick. Ruben Randall at 11-5. San Francisco defense at 10-4. And Roethlisberger at 13-5. I think Stafford is the best pick here. Moving on to the defunct Evolutions Animals team. He only had one qualifying offer here, and that was the Denver defense at round 14, choice 1. We've seen some improvements, some enhancements made with the Denver defense here, so it's not completely far-fetched that the Denver defense would be a solid pick. Jacksonville has Tony Gonzalez at round 6, choice 6. I don't think that does anybody any good now since he's retired. But he does have Golden Tate at round 6, choice 7. Now, Golden Tate is going to be implemented in this new Detroit high-octane offense. Now, if you imagine that Calvin Johnson is going to be double-teamed very heavily, one could see how Golden Tate would be a very interesting choice here as a dynasty keeper. Ryan Matthews at round 6, choice 9. It will be interesting if he can stay on that path. And he also has the newly acquired Denver Broncos wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders at round 11, choice 1. Genocide has some very good picks. Does Andrew Luck have a healthy Reggie Wayne, a better T.Y. Hilton, and does he get any production out of Trent Richardson at all? Bilal Powell at round 9, choice 3. Brian Hartline at round 9, choice 10. The Arizona defense, who played pretty well towards the end of the year at round 11, choice 3. Cordell Patterson at round 11, choice 1. I think he's the guy you take the chance on out of here. You also have Jacquizz Rodgers, round 12, choice 5. Coby Fleener, round 15, choice 3. And Aaron Dobson Maybe he becomes the new wide receiver target in that New England offense. Last but not least, here's Dragon choices. Dragon has Tony Romo, round 6, choice 5. Anquan Bolden, round 8, choice 9. Chicago defense at round 10, choice 3. Bryce Brown, round 11, choice 4. Fred Jackson, round 12, choice 7. Alshon Jeffrey, round 13, choice 10. And Riley Cooper, round 16, choice 5. This would definitely be between Alshon Jeffrey and Riley Cooper. And I think you just got to go with Alshon Jeffrey here. Riley Cooper had a great breakout year. Nick Foles and that Chip Kelly offense needed a second wide receiver to step up, and he did that. I remember Riley Cooper getting 3 catches for like 100 yards and 2 touchdowns every week, it seemed. This Alshon Jeffrey looks like he's going to be a star. I think Brandon Marshall's going to be passing the torch very shortly to Alshon Jeffrey. This guy is a stud. I don't see how you could not keep Alshon Jeffrey if you can call me Dragon. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll discuss each team's draft slot and try to predict who each team will pick back after this.
It's sometime in the future. The ultimate challenge. Crossfire. Crossfire. You can count the crossfire. Crossfire. You can count the crossfire. Crossfire! You'll get caught up in it.
An evil empire is sucking the life force from the planet, destroying all that's in its path. It's up to one soldier of fortune to save the world. If he succeeds, you survive. If he fails, you can always hit the reset button. Final Fantasy VII.
PlayStation.
The ballads are back. And now they're bigger and badder than ever. It's Monster Ballads Platinum Edition, the 32 hugest power ballad hits of all time on 2 unbelievable CDs. You can't get this incredible 2 CD collection in any store. Don't miss this opportunity to feel the power of platinum. Order this awesome collection online at MusicSpace.com. Get Monster Ballads Platinum Edition now, because every bad boy still has his soft side. To order, call the number on your screen or log on to MusicSpace.com. Rush delivery available.
Mr. Bucket!
That's right, I'm Mr. Bucket. I'm Mr. Bucket. Toss your balls in my top, I'm Mr. Bucket. Out of my mouth I will pop, I'm Mr. Bucket. We're all gonna run, I'm Mr. Bucket.
The game's Mr. Bucket. The first to get their balls into Mr. Bucket wins, but look out, because the balls will pop out of his mouth.
I'm Mr. Bucket. The balls pop out of my mouth, I'm Mr. Bucket. A ball is what I'm about, I'm Mr. Bucket. We're all gonna run, I'm Mr. Bucket.
Mr. Bucket from Milton Bradley.
Bucket for fun.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you are just tuning in, this is the premiere podcast of the Cromartie's Kid Fun Fantasy Football Show. I'm your host, the T-Man, so sit back and relax while you listen to the podcast with the most up-to-date news, gossip, drama, and inside information relating to all things Cromartie's Kids Fund. So not too long ago, the 2014 Cromartie's Kids Fund Draft Order was released to the public, and here's the order as of now. Number 1, we have Scalcada. Number 2, Bwub. Number 3, Kid Shredded. Number 4 goes to Jacksonville. In at number 5 is Genocide. Coming in at 6 is T-Manifest Destiny 4. 7 is You Can Call Me Dragon. At the number 8 slot is Fuck Pat Martin. Number 9 goes to Money Manziel. Number 10 is Thank You Come Again. Choice 11 goes to Reeves and Butthead. And rounding out the last slot at number 12 is Make It Dwayne on These Bows. Now, as of today, there have been no approved trades to switch any roster spots. It will be interesting to see if any of these spots do get traded in the last 2 months before the draft comes around. Despite Pat Martin offering teams $50 to switch, there has been no dramatic changes to discuss. So these positions could be the final order come draft day. That being said, who goes with the number 1 pick? According to these Yahoo preseason ranks, these are the top 12 players. Take this with a grain of salt since our league has a much different scoring format. Here it goes as per Yahoo. Jamal Charles, McCoy, Adrian Peterson, Eddie Lacy, Marshawn Lynch, Matt Forte, Calvin Johnson, first wide receiver off the board at number 7. Jimmy Graham at number 8, the first tight end. Number 9, Monty Ball, Demaryius Thomas, AJ Green, and Dez Bryant. And interestingly enough, the first quarterback is Peyton Manning in at number 17. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 running backs in the first round, 4 wide receivers in the first round, and we have 1 tight end in the first round. No quarterbacks being selected in the first round according to Yahoo preseason ranks. So here are some key outliers that I do believe have a chance of being drafted in the first round. Out of the quarterbacks, you could definitely see Drew Brees being selected in the first round. He's currently listed at 22. And not far behind him is Aaron Rodgers at number 24. You could also make a case for these running backs as well. You have Le'Veon Bell at number 13. Doug Martin at number 15. Zach Stacy comes in at 16. And not too far behind him is Giovanni Bernard and DeMarco Murray at 19 and 20 respectively. How about some of these wide receivers maybe creeping up in the end of the first round? We have Julio Jones at 18. Brandon Marshall actually in front of him at 14. And his teammate, Alshon Jeffrey, in at number 21. Is the manager looking for a stud running back to anchor the team, as in seasons past? Seems like we do get a lot of running backs drafted in the first round, but I think things might change a little bit from the production we've seen out of the wide receiver slot lately. But here's who I can pretty much guarantee is going to be drafted in the first round. I see Jamal Charles, LaShawn McCoy, and Adrian Peterson being the guaranteed running backs. As far as quarterbacks go, I do think at least 1 quarterback will go. Now, I haven't decided if it's going to be Peyton Manning or Drew Brees, but I do believe that one of those quarterbacks will definitely be selected at some point in the first round. The only wide receivers I can guarantee for you, without a doubt, will be Calvin Johnson and one of either AJ Green or Dez Bryant. Now, I'm kind of leaning that both of those wide receivers will get drafted in the first round, but I can't guarantee that both will. I definitely think that AJ will get drafted before Dez. That's just my personal opinion. So those are the 8 players that I can guarantee will be drafted in the first round. Can't guarantee what order, but I can guarantee that they will be drafted in the first round. So let's take a look back at last year's Kamari's Kids Fun Draft, and let's kind of analyze here. Looking at this first round here, there were 9 running backs selected in the first round. We had 1 quarterback go in the first round, and only 2 wide receivers go in the first round of the draft. Peterson, Doug Martin in at number 2, Arian Foster in at number 3, Jamal Charles at number 4. Here we go, like this number 5 pick, Trent Richardson in at number 5. We have Calvin Johnson at number 6. CJ Spiller, who's not even being discussed in the first round for this year, in at number 7. Ray Rice in at number 8. Number 9, LaShawn McCoy. Marshawn Lynch at number 10. AJ Green in at number 11. And the first quarterback drafted last year was Drew Brees in at number 12. So it'll be very interesting as we look forward to the 2014 CKF draft. That wraps it up for the inaugural episode of the Kamari's Kids Fun Fantasy Podcast. Tune in next time as we get closer to the draft date and analyze storylines from years past. See you next episode. This is the T-Man signing off.